last time, as you recall.
They were perverse and crooked and rebellious against God. They did eat the bread of wickedness and drank the wine of violence. They did eat the bread of wickedness and drank the wine of violence. And they did evil in the eyes of the Lord. And the graven image hath brought us joy. And they worshipped the golden calf and sacrificed unto it. Here is your sacrifice. And the people sinned a great sin.
Are you mourners of Moses up?
They were perverse and crooked and rebellious against God. They did eat the bread of wickedness and drank the wine of violence. They did eat the bread of wickedness and drank the wine of violence. And they did evil in the eyes of the Lord.
Thou shalt not steal.
There's no time. It'll land any minute. I just know it'll land any minute.
You won't let anybody in.
Oh, what'll we do?
I'll tell you what we ought to do. We ought to find one basement and go to work on that.
I tell you, it just isn't fair. He's down there in a bomb shelter, perfectly safe, while I kids have to sit around and wait for a bomb to drop.
Why don't we just go down to his basement and break down the door? Come on, let's get it in there. Let's get it in there.
President of the United States has just announced that the previously unidentified objects have now been definitely ascertained as being satellites. Repeat, there are no enemy missiles approaching. Repeat, there are no enemy missiles approaching. The objects have been identified as satellites. They are harmless, and we are in no danger. The state of emergency has officially been called off. We are in no danger. Repeat, there is no enemy attack.
Thank God.
Marty? Marty? I went off my rocker. Well, you can understand that, can't you? I just went off my rocker. I didn't mean any of those things I said to you. Well, we were all of us so scared, so confused. Well, it's no wonder, is it? I mean, you can understand why we all blew our tops a little. Oh, I don't think Marty's going to hold it against you, Frank. Just like I don't think Bill is going to hold all this against us. We'll pay for the damages, Bill. We'll take up a collection right away.
We could have a block party tomorrow night or something. A big celebration. Huh? I think we rate one now.
Hey, that's a great idea, block party. Anything to get back to normal, huh?
Normal? I don't know. I don't know what normal is. I thought I did once. I don't anymore.
I told you we'd pay for the damages, Bill.
Damages?
T7 Mornings.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Kreutz. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday, May 30th. We continue to follow the protests that have happened overnight in the East Bay and the South Bay over the death of George Floyd, and we're seeing the aftermath now this morning. Of course, George Floyd is the man who died in Minneapolis police custody earlier this week. That sparked nationwide protests. In Oakland, the protesters seemed to disperse around 1:30 this morning. That's after about 5.5 hours of marching and demonstrations. Police say that they are investigating as well an incident involving 2 contract security officers for the Federal Protective Service who were shot. They say one of the officers died from his injury. The other officer is in stable condition. This happened at the Federal Building on Clay Street at about 9:45 last night. That's after about 5.5 hours of marching and demonstrations. Police say that they are investigating as well an incident involving 2 contract security officers for the Federal Protective Service who were shot. They say one of the officers died from his injury. The other
According to the Jewish tradition, anytime you save the life of any individual, you are credited as saving an entire world or universe. But anytime you take the life of another human being, as someone is killed, which is forbidden in the Ten Commandments, then that is the same as a world or universe being destroyed. There are millions and millions of worlds here on Earth. Millions and millions of universes. Our world is comprised of multiverses. So when I think of that officer being killed, This is what I think of.
The air for as long as possible. All we can say is what we've been repeating all morning. Get to any kind of underground shelter. It's on the sideline. Good. So fine. That's up. That's pretty wrong.
This isn't the end, son.
I know.
Who were shot. They say one of the officers died from his injury. The other officer is in stable condition. This happened at
now that we honored the life of that
at about 9:45
security
last night.
officer.
The FBI says a person inside a vehicle began firing gunshots at contract security officers, and police say that they are investigating still to determine whether this shooting is related to the protests. This did happen in the area and around the time of those protests. Now, the federal
scene much earlier than when we showed up. Jim, I know you've seen a lot today. What have you seen? What kind of damage are you seeing?
Good morning, Cornell. Thank you. Before we go to the video, I'd like to point out that we're talking primarily the damage is done on the commercial corridor of Broadway from about the Marriott at 11th Street all the way up to MacArthur, up near the new Kaiser Hospital. I've also driven around Telegraph and seen very little damage. So what I have witnessed this morning since about 6:30 is just this entire stretch. It's about 30 city blocks where a number of businesses have broken windows, graffiti is everywhere. And let's start with the most important story right now would be the shooting at the Federal Building. The contracted security guard for Homeland Security was shot and killed last night in a drive-by shooting. Someone drove by and shot that security guard and another man, and that security guard did die. There is an incredible FBI presence surrounding the Ron Dellums Federal Building at 12th and Clay. Many streets there are still closed. Jefferson is closed between 12th and 14th. And 12th Street is closed between Clay and Jefferson. I counted at least 40 FBI SWAT members in full gear, armed. There are armored vehicles. There's a full investigation ongoing into the shooting and death of the contracted worker. So as far as we know, no arrests have been made. Just down the street, 2 blocks away, in what I'm calling the Civic Center, is where we saw an incredible amount of damage with the Walgreens drugstore. The Walgreens drugstore was completely trashed, just like this Target. And you can see for the damage yourself what it looked like. Next door is a Wells Fargo bank, completely trashed. It looked like they set fire to the ATM. Everywhere around this area, you see burned debris as they started fires last night. I've seen a couple of burned out cars around the downtown Oakland area. As I ventured up Broadway, we went to Mercedes-Benz of Oakland. That's where just 8 hours ago, they were burning a vehicle inside the Mercedes-Benz dealer. We were able to see the black car that was torched. It's kind of hard to see from the sidewalk, but you could smell this putrid plastic odor of the parts of the car that melted in the fire. There were also 6 total cars on the showroom floor, all heavily damaged by the demonstrators. And we talked to the manager of Mercedes-Benz. All right, and so that was the sales manager of Mercedes-Benz, and they're devastated, of course. We did the math. Each one of those cars was worth at least $50,000. So there's at least, you know, that the car that was burned was probably destroyed. So, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage there, broken windows, up the street.
Police cars vandalized and set on fire during the height of the protests, and for the first time and only on NBC4, our John Caddy's Klimak talks to the man in charge of fixing dozens of those damaged cruisers. And it was not just the vehicles lost, but thousands of dollars of equipment inside as well.
We've been given some exclusive access to the Motor Transport Division for LAPD, and this is what we're showing you. These are the 8 vehicles that were totaled of the 156 that were damaged in the 2 days of violent protests here in the city of Los Angeles. And you can see what is left behind. All of this damage totaling around $950,000 of the LAPD budget to fix that. And today we're speaking with some of the people who are involved in trying to repair some of these, not the ones that are total, but the ones that can actually get back on the road. Here's what they had to say.
I've been in my position going on 11 years now, and in fact this is the worst that I've seen as far as vehicle damage by far. The majority of what we found were windshields bashed in, tires slashed, the hoods were peeled back on them, wires cut, fuel lines cut.
So this is a graveyard of sorts for some of these vehicles, and yet some of them they can actually salvage. This you might look at and think it's a complete loss, but it's not. It'll cost about $32,000. That's the estimate to fix this. And the reason why LAPD wants to fix it is because of the equipment that's inside. This is the expensive stuff. The fact that this is still intact and still salvageable, they can save this car with some of the old parts of other cars that they still have in the building here. We're going to talk about this, a lot more of this, coming up in a later edition of